Welcome back to the Culture Shock podcast. I'm your host, Zayana Iwuru, and today we're going to be talking about modern feminism. And feminism has been a hot topic, and I feel like a lot of young people my age identify as feminists. I used to identify as a feminist for a long portion of my life. And today we're just going to be talking about the different waves of feminism and just how it relates to Christianity as a Christian, because I always want to see things through the lens of Jesus. And then I'll tell you about my own experience being a feminist, I guess. And then also we'll just kind of wrap up with my feminist icon, which I think should be everyone's feminist icon, but it's the Proverbs 31 woman, and we're just going to be dissecting her and her characteristics. All that to come on the Culture Shock podcast. All right, so let's just kind of dive in, okay? There've been multiple waves of feminism, right? And I kind of did my own research with my little chat GPT, okay, and it kind of broke down the different waves of feminism. And the first wave of feminism was from the late 1900s to early 20th century. And it just basically focused on, women's right to vote, women's right to own properties, and legal equality, which I think are all valid things. I feel like no matter if this is controversial or not, which it shouldn't, I think men and women are equal. We are different and we do have different characteristics and I think different purposes in life, but ultimately we're equal in value. Okay, when God created the spirit of man, he said, let us make man in our own image and in our own likeness. And male and female, he created them. So when he created us as a spirit being, he created us equal. Okay, and when he brought men and women to this world, he gave us different responsibilities and roles. No, that doesn't mean women are supposed to be the kitchen only and men are supposed to work. I don't think that's necessarily the gender norms that has been normalized. And so he basically created us equal in value, but very different. Okay. And so, after the first wave of feminism, women wanted the right to own properties and to vote as they should. The second wave of feminism came, which kind of dove deeper and addressed more deeper issues like, workplace equality and discrimination, reproductive rights, gender roles, and things like that, which kind of gets touchy as you go deeper and kind of caused and sparked a lot of debates amongst men and women and even amongst women. And then the third wave came and talked about intersectionality, diversity, and individual empowerment. And then the fourth wave came, which is from what I can research from 2010-ish to now, and it just basically digital activism, the Me Too movement, and it focuses on sexual harassment, I think sexual liberation, body positivity, as well as gender inclusivity. So you can see how throughout these different waves, feminism and the definition and the meaning has kind of evolved. So when you look at feminism now and how I was introduced to feminism, it wasn't necessarily termed feminism. I was just a little girl growing up in Nigeria, and I was told that you're strong, independent women and you should be educated, you should be smart, you should be articulate, you should, have strong characteristics to you as a woman. But you should also know and realize that men and women are different and you play different roles. Now, if we dig deep into Nigerian gender norms and all that, like people agree with it, some people don't, but I'm just sharing my own experience. And so I grew up to be a strong, opinionated woman, and there was nothing wrong with that, right? But I also did know that eventually down the line, I was going to eventually get married, submit to my husband, bear children, and basically take care of my household as the woman. And that was my responsibility. So I kind of grew up having both sides of the coin, if you will, and knowing that, yes, you can be a strong, educated woman, but you also know your place, quote unquote. And so growing up with that mindset, I was like, okay, cool. And so I moved to the US and I was kind of introduced to basically the idea that as a woman, you don't need no man, okay? You do not need no man as a woman. And what you should do is get all these degrees, climb the corporate ladder, and excuse my French, but F them kids, you know? I feel like that's my interpretation of the culture and the environment coming into America and trying to be a strong, independent woman, right? And it was more so implied that if you have a man, good, okay, but you don't really need him. And man, anything a woman can do, a man can do, right? And so that was kind of like the mindset. And having this mindset, I kind of grew some type of resentment and hostility towards men, thinking that I am better than them and they have no place in society. And basically, they've put us down for so long as women. And so I kind of had this victim mentality, like men put us down for so long and this is our time to shine, and this is our time to be boss ladies that do not need men. Okay, now I'm not saying this is everyone's experience, but this is just what my experience was going to college and just living as a young woman in society. And so it wasn't until I kind of re-engaged with my faith and built a closer relationship with God that I kind of understood that, okay, what is this anger and hostility I have towards men? Like, let's really unpack this, okay? The Holy Spirit was like, sit down, let's unpack this hostility you have towards men. Why do you think you're a strong, independent woman that doesn't need a man? And I was one of those girls, like, don't open my door for me, like, don't pay for my dates, I got it, I don't owe you anything and you don't owe me anything. And just kind of having aggression, honestly. And so I kind of went on a personal journey to re-tap into my femininity as a woman, and that was something completely separate. And I found myself, when I started re-engaging in this femininity movement, I kind of found myself on the other side of the coin. I kind of found myself thinking, you know what, I just want to like be a housewife and have a bunch of kids and be a soft feminine woman and let a man take care of me and just kind of be like airheaded, which that is totally not me. Like, if you know me as a person, I'm very opinionated. I'm very like bold. I would like to think and confident in what I believe and what I stand for. And I kind of like mellowed down my personality to be more soft and adaptable, just because I didn't want to like be hostile towards men anymore. And I wanted to be more feminine. Okay. And so I kind of experienced two sides of the coin, and I think we kind of land in the middle, right? I don't think you should be on one extreme where you think, like you don't need a man and you're basically like, hostile towards men in general. And that's just not romantic partners. That's, family members or siblings or co-workers or any man in your life. Just kind of like having a hostile attitude towards them, which I had, and then going the complete opposite and just thinking a woman's place is in the kitchen and nothing else, right? And so I'm going to talk today about just landing in the middle. But before we dive into that, I just wanted to talk about Jesus, okay? Because in this podcast, we talk about culture, we talk about different topics, and I share my experiences. But I always want to go back to Jesus and what Jesus modeled and just the Bible, because I think that's truth, okay? A lot of the things in the world are opinions, and a lot of people have knowledge and wisdom and a lot of things which are really good. But the Bible is truth, okay? It's the word of God, and it's the living word of God. And I think it has a lot of tremendous wisdom. And so I like to model my life after Jesus and after the Bible. And so we're going to dive a little deeper into how Jesus treated women, because I think there's a little misconception that Christian women, you're just not strong. You're just like, you submit to your man and you let him lead. And I feel like a lot of people are kind of apprehensive, especially if they're new Christians or not even Christians. They're just apprehensive of the fact that we should submit to our man. And so kind of understanding, yes, we're supposed to submit to our man or man in general, the men in our life, like in our lives, and authority figures, but that doesn't necessarily take away from our power as women. Just even the way Jesus in that time treated women shows a lot about his character and his stance on women being basically equal to men, right? So it was a revolutionary time when Jesus was alive in society, because women were not often, seen as first class citizens. They were often seen as second class, and Jesus kind of broke some cultural norms by valuing, teaching, and interacting with women in ways that were unheard of at that time for rabbis. And so Jesus allowed women to learn from him, which was rare in that culture and that time frame, because Jesus openly taught women and encourage them to be his disciples and encourages them to learn from him. We can see an example when Mary was sitting at Jesus's feet in Luke 10:38-42. She was basically sitting at Jesus's feet and learning from him. And when Martha complained about it, and I was like, girl, why are you sitting there listening to Jesus preach? Like, come to the kitchen. Let's be in the kitchen and cook. But Jesus basically defended Mary and was like, it's better that she's here and learning from me than whatever you're doing right now. So you should learn from her, basically. And, even when Jesus resurrected from the grave, which was a very, very significant point in Christian history and just us as Christians, like, he resurrected. That's such a pivotal point. But he revealed himself to a woman first. He revealed himself to Mary Magdalene and basically instructed her to go tell the rest of the disciples. He spoke to a Samaritan woman, right? Which at the time was breaking multiple cultural taboos. And Jesus, Jews were not supposed to associate with Samaritans at that time. And men, let alone, did not speak to women alone in public. And, rabbis didn't necessarily converse with women about theology or anything like that. But yet Jesus engaged in a deep, meaningful conversation with a woman, which for that time, that was just showing how God really values the individual, right? And he's not about the, this gender is better than the other gender. It's all about advancing his kingdom. Yes, we do play different roles in society and in life, but Jesus was empowering women by breaking those cultural norms. And women were a huge part of the early church and the early ministry. Like Jesus's mother Mary, she was present in the upper room praying after Jesus's ascension. And there was Lydia, the businesswoman, who became one of the first converts in Europe and opened her home to Paul and the other believers. And there was Phoebe, a deacon, and Priscilla, a teacher of theology. So there were a lot of strong, amazing women in the Bible that Jesus engaged with. But even after Jesus left, they were prevalent throughout the Bible as well, and they played significant roles. So all that to say that when you look at the basic discussion of feminism, which is, this woman reclaiming her power, being strong and being, capable of doing a lot of things, there's nothing wrong with that, right? I think it's when we take it to the extreme, in my opinion, where we reclaim our power, but at the expense of men and at the expense of putting the other party down. That's where I have a problem with it, okay? And we're going to be talking about my own feminist icon, like I said, the Proverbs 31 woman, which a lot of Christian women love the characteristics of a Proverbs 31 woman, and a lot of women want to be a Proverbs 31 woman. But how many times have we actually sat down and dissected a Proverbs 31 woman to understand her characteristics and understand why she's so amazing? And I would like to take a minute to do that. So we're just gonna dive in. Proverbs 31, it starts in verse 10. It says, a wife of noble character, who can find? She's worth far more than rubies. Her husband has full confidence in her and lacks nothing of value. That should, first of all, understand how capable this woman is, because her husband has full confidence that his wife is going to handle stuff. His wife, I have full confidence that she's going to get stuff done. That's how confident he is in her. That just shows you her character, and she's worth far more than rubies, okay? And she brings him good and not harm all the days of her life. That means whatever she's adding to his life is good. She doesn't intentionally harm him. She adds good to her life, so she's valuable, right? She selects wool and flax and works with eager hands. A Proverbs 31 woman is a woman that is eager to work, and she's eager to get in the dirt and do the hard things. She's like the merchant ships, bringing her food from afar. She gets up while it's still night and provides food for her family and portions for her female servants. Like, she gets up at the crack of dawn, basically, while it's still dark, just to provide for her family, but also her servants, right? She doesn't just provide for herself. She provides for the people that are under her, the people she supervises. That just shows that she's in a leadership position. She considers a field and buys it. Out of her earnings, she plants a vineyard. Okay, she's into investing. Okay, this woman is amazing. Not only does she wake up early and take care of her family and is in a leadership position and is valuable to her husband, and she's far worth more than rubies and all of this, but she's also educated, because she goes out, she looks at a field, and she's like, okay, I need to buy this with the earnings that she earned from the plants in her vineyard, right? So she's a businesswoman. Her arms are strong for her tasks. Okay, I take this as she hits the gym. Okay, she is hardworking to where her physical hands are strong, and she sees that her trading is profitable. Okay, so she has a lot of wisdom to know what to invest in, and it's profitable, and her lamp does not go out at night. Okay, the electricity does not turn off because she produces oil, because she pays her bills. Okay, in her hand she holds the distaff and grasps the spindle with her finger. Okay, she opens her arms to the poor. She extends her hands to the needy. She is generous. Okay, when it snows, she has no fear for her household, for all of them are clothed in scarlet. Okay, when cold night comes, when rainy night comes, she has no fear. She's not shaken, because she knows she already provided comfort clothes for her family and her household. She makes coverings for her bed. She is clothed in fine linen and purple. I'm sure her room is like the most magical place, you know, like purple and just very womanly and girly. She's dressed nice. She takes care of her appearance. And a verse that I think is really key in this Proverbs 31 woman story is that her husband is respected at the city gates. Okay, and he takes seat among the elders of the land. Her husband is respected at the city gates, and he takes his seat among the elders. So she did not just marry a bum that's living off of her, okay, and her hard work, but she married someone who is respectable and, you know, respected at the city, and he's in a leadership position. That makes sense. If a Proverbs 31 woman is a woman that knows how to invest, she's generous, she's beautiful, she takes care of her appearance, she's valuable, she's hardworking, she wakes up early, she goes to the gym, she does all these amazing things, it makes sense that she's married to a leader and she's married to someone who's respectable. She makes fine linen and sells them and supplies the merchants with sashes. Okay, she doesn't just have one stream of income. She's gardening, using that money to garden, to invest in a land, and she's making linen, she's selling them. She's a woman that is multifaceted and has multiple streams of income. And then it goes on to praise her. It says she is clothed with strength and dignity. She's a woman who is strong and she's dignified, and she can laugh at the days to come. She speaks with wisdom, and faithful instruction is on her tongue. She's a woman of wisdom, okay? She watches over the affairs of her household. She does not eat the bread of idleness. This is a strong one. She watches over the affairs of her household, and she does not eat the bread of idleness. So she does not let herself sit around all day with nothing to do, being bored, and not utilize the gifts and talents that God has given her. Her children rises and calls her blessed. Her husband also praises her. The people around her, her kids and her husband, they understand her value. They praise her and they bless her. And it says, many women do noble things, but you surpass them all. Now, I just imagine this Proverbs 31 woman being a woman that's a little bit more seasoned. I don't think this is a young woman who's bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and just like trying to figure out the world. I think this is a woman that is more seasoned, that has gone through life, that understands how things work, understands investing, understands how to take care of her household, run her household, while still being beautiful, while still hitting the gym, while still being educated and financially responsible. She's a woman that has it together. And I don't see her as a young woman. I see her as someone who is a little bit more seasoned. And this gives me comfort as a young woman, because this makes me think, okay, I don't have to be a Proverbs 31 woman right now. Okay, I don't have to have all those things together right now. I don't have to be waking up at 5 a.m. while being solid in my finances and working hard and all these things. Yes, these are things I am striving and aspiring to. But when you talk about her having wisdom, okay, wisdom is not something that just comes to you. You don't just ask God for wisdom and he gives you wisdom. When you ask God for wisdom, he puts you through things and situations that require critical thinking and require failing and learning from your mistakes. Those experiences and that time, spent with God and hearing from him, those are the things that give you wisdom. Okay. And so I want to look back at my life when I'm like in my 50s, maybe I have a couple grandkids, and I want to be able to say, yes, I am closer to a Proverbs 31 woman because I used my young days to learn the skills, to go to the presence of God and learn from him, and, being able to gradually become this woman. And so the verse kind of closes out by saying, charm is deceitful and beauty is fleeting, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. It talks about her husband and her kids praising her. Why is she to be praised? Because she has the fear of God. She fears the Lord. And when you fear the Lord, you have reverence for him. When you fear the Lord, you sit at his feet and want to learn from him. And with that heart posture, he's able to give you all these wisdom and teach you and guide you in the way you should go in becoming this woman. And it says, honor her for all her hands have done, and let her works bring her praise at the city gates. And that's why I feel like this woman is a little bit more seasoned, because it says honor her for all her hands has done, because she's not someone who hasn't done stuff. She's not someone who hasn't gone through life. And so this is my feminist icon, okay? When we talk about the women we have today in society, and whether that's celebrities, politicians, or musicians, actors, actresses, when you look at these people that young women like us are looking up to as feminist icon, are they really embodying what it truly means to be a woman of strength and a woman of dignity and just being that girl, So I know this is kind of like a workaround around the topic of feminism, but I just feel like in this modern times where feminism is just kind of like in the air and different people have different opinions, whether, it's okay to be a trad wife and, raise people on a farm, or you just want to be a CEO and climb the corporate ladder. I don't think anyone should be discriminated against anyone's goals and aspirations as a woman, because let's be clear, at the end of the day, I know a lot of women, especially Christian women, want to be wives, but marriage is not promised, okay? Marriage is not promised. What if you do not have a man to submit to? What if marriage is not in the cards for you and God has called you to do something greater for his kingdom? what are you going to do then? So we do have to learn how to work hard. We do have to learn how to be a strong, independent woman. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but I do think it should not be at the detriment to men, which I feel like is what it is nowadays. I believe 60% of Gen Z men believe that the feminist movement has been a detriment to men, and men feel like they're not being heard and seen anymore because, women are kind of praised. So I don't think there's anything wrong with being a strong, confident woman, but let's not do it out of pride. Let's be humble and know where our strength and dignity comes from and where our wisdom comes from. It comes from the fear of the Lord, just like the Proverbs 31 woman. And so this topic of modern feminism specifically, it could go in different directions, and there's a lot of faces to this topic, but I really just wanted to look at it through a biblical lens. This time we can always dive deeper in different aspects later on. But if you have any questions or comments, feel free to engage with me and we'll talk more in the comments, or you can DM me, whatever you want. That's all the time I have for now. Stay blessed. I love you.